for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another summer edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He's Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, how are you today, my friend?
Fantastic. Never have a bad day, especially when it starts early in the morning at the rink. It's always a good day. Always a good day.
In the summer, too.
Yeah.
There you go. Nothing like summer hockey. Pierre, lots to talk about. But before we get into it, I want to tell everyone we are going to have a guest today, Aaron Portzline of The Athletic, formerly of the Columbus Post-Dispatch, has covered the Blue Jackets since their inception. Will be joining us to talk about Dean Evason being hired by the Blue Jackets and all sorts of things regarding the Blue Jackets. So looking forward to that. He'll be joining us in about 15 minutes here on the Eye Test. But before we get into that, I want to just mention our sponsors, Betway. You want to go over to betway.ca right now. You can get all baseball's back up and running right after the All-Star break. The pennant races are going, some really good ones too. So get over there, check out the spreads, the futures, what have you, because Betway is a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. You can go to that SKU right there below Pierre and just take a picture of that and get there, or you can just go to betway.ca. And of course, TCS Customs and Logistics, our other sponsor. Give a shout out to Michael Maisling, the wonderful owner there and our good friend. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics from around the corner to around the world. Flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Again, sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Now, like I said, some of the big hockey news is Dean Evason getting a job in Columbus, but Edmonton sort of stole the spotlight today. Not that there's much hockey spotlight going on right now, but they hire Stan Bowman as general manager. Pierre, as we discussed off air, not an unexpected move, but it has happened. Just your reaction to him now officially being the GM in Edmonton.
Oh, I think that, one, they got a very competent hockey person. I know there's a lot of people out there that are very angry in the Edmonton marketplace and maybe some other marketplaces as well. I think one of the things that helped push Stan's candidacy was Sheldon Kennedy and the endorsement that he gave Stan. Stan spent a lot of time working around Sheldon and learning from Sheldon. I always think there's an opportunity for somebody to live and learn and get better. And that's not to say Stan was doing anything terrible. Stan was part of an organization where there was a hierarchy that was created from ownership to presidency to general manager to head coach. And he kind of is in the middle of that. That being said, some bad things were done. And now you hope that there's redemption and an opportunity to get better. But did they get a good hockey man in Edmonton? The answer is yes, they did. Sheldon Kennedy's endorsement, I think, went a long way. I'm sure that Jeff Jackson and everybody in Edmonton did a lot of background checking, had a lot of conversations, did their own probably investigation, not relying on other people's investigation, relying on their own investigation. And I think when it's all said and done, all those investigations lead to, they thought in their situation, they hired a person that can help put them over the top and potentially win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and I want to just say quickly on, what happened in Chicago. One thing I want to say there, Pierre, is he did the work. Like you see so many people, whether it's in sports or Hollywood or politicians or whatever, it's a lot of lip service a lot of times, right? When they're talking about making up for their mistakes, and you find out they never really did much. They just kind of said, this is what I'm doing to get back into their field. But he did the work, and to have a guy like Sheldon Kennedy who shoots straight from the hip, so he's not going to lie for Stan Bowman to say, I witnessed it firsthand, what he has done to atone for his mistake. That to me meant a lot. Like you said, I'm glad you brought that up. And then on the hockey side, I've got a question for you, Pierre, and we can kind of tie it into the other individual who still is out of work but has been reinstated, and that's Joel Quenneville. What's the difference? And maybe this is an obvious answer, but what is the difference if you're a general manager being away from the game for 2 years versus being a coach, and how much harder is it for one side to kind of readapt than the other?
It's not hard for either, as long as you're paying attention.
Okay.
You know, this is the one thing that drives me a little bit cuckoo. You know, you hear from people saying, well, you haven't been in the league for 3 years yet, or he hasn't been in the league for 5 years. Not if I'll tell you one thing. There's one guy that I know that watches more games than anybody else.
Yes, I know who.
And he's 90 years of age. He could wipe the floor with half the guys coaching in the league, and he hasn't coached a game since 2002. So just please stop the nonsense. This whole thing about, well, you know, he's been out this long, he's been out that long. You know how long Joe Torre was out? You know how long Joe Torre was out as a manager in baseball before he got hired by the Yankees? 16 years.
Yeah.
16 years he was out. From the time the Atlanta Braves fired him to the time the New York Yankees hired him. And I bet the Yankees are pretty happy they've hired him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Back in the day when they were not winning World Series, then they hire him and they start to win World Series. Yep. As long as you're working and as long as you're paying attention, as long as you're doing the work you have to do, the league doesn't pass you by.
No,
it doesn't. It does not. Trust me on that. And so that this whole malarkey about, well, he's been out 3 years. That is so full of poop. That argument goes out the window.
100%.
I can tell you right now. There are people that are managing teams in the NHL today, right now. You put them in a room without notes, and you put them in there with a senior executive and an owner of a team. And let's just say you take somebody that's been out of the league for 3 years, and you ask them those questions, that general manager, and then you bring in the person that's been out 3 years but does the work. I guarantee you that GM will be throttled in the interview.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They'll be throttled. And the biggest problem is because they are provincial. They have blinders on. They only watch their team. They don't watch anybody else.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I was going to say, Pierre. I mean, in this day and age with the internet and social media and everything and being able to watch any game you want all the time, it's streaming all the time. If you want to stay in touch, you'll stay in touch. You'll stay connected because you have so many resources now. That being said, the man you referred to, Scotty Bowman, hardly uses any of those resources. He just uses this.
No, what he does is he watches.
He talks to a lot of people constantly.
But there's nobody better when it comes to watching and dissecting games. And you know, Stan's his son.
Yep.
So it's not like he didn't learn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, part of and I said this to you the other day. One of the things, if you're the child of somebody that works in the hockey business, that's how they make their living. It doesn't mean you have a huge advantage, but you have an advantage of people that did not grow up in the game because you're watching it and talking about it and living it every day.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that other people can't do it because there are lots of them that can, but it gives you a bit of an advantage. What you do with that advantage, that's up to you.
Yeah.
That's up to you.
I'm with you.
You know, but so Stan grew up with this. It's not like it just was a foreign concept to him. You know, I lived with his father for 2 years. I know what he does, and I know what he tried to teach his children.
Yeah.
So I kind of know.
And just for those that don't know out there, I think it's just a cool little thing. Cool little side note. Stanley Bowman is named after
the Stanley Cup.
Just for those who don't.
Just so you know, Bob, his son, who's a twin, is named after Robert Gordon Orr.
Okay. I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Did not know that. So there you go. I love the hockey family. They are great stuff. All right. Let's just talk, though, quickly before we move on to Columbus and all that with Aaron. The Oilers, Pierre, I think we have to give credit where it's due. Jeff Jackson, since he's come in, I think has done a really great job. And what happened when I found out the news today, I thought about something, right? Is a lot of times we see either teams go completely new wave or completely old school, if you know what I mean. Like they just bring in a new wave of coaches or GMs or what have you. What I see there is a combination, is a team that is willing to go with the new tools they have, whether it's analytics or just the way the game is right now, what have you, but also bring in other guys who have tons of experience, and it's all blending together. And I'd say right now, arguably, as an NHL executive, I think Jeff Jackson, in terms of off seasons, would have to be top 3 off seasons, in my opinion, given what they just went through to make the Stanley Cup final. He hasn't wasted any time. He's identified needs that he needed in the lineup. He identified what he needed in the front office, and he's continued to build off what they already have there, which, unfortunately, sometimes because of the salary cap or whatever, you don't see that as much. So I want to give him credit just for the way he keeps going. He hasn't taken a pause. He hasn't rested on his laurels. He keeps going. I think he deserves credit for that.
I agree 100%. Now you got to remember there are relationships that are built in there. Jeff was a player and then he got into the agents business, and I'm sure he did numerous contracts with Stan along the way. And so that was where that relationship probably was fostered, and there's a respect level there. And so when you're doing deals with people, there's some people you think more highly of than others. That there are tons of agents that I would consider to be good friends because I've had the opportunity to negotiate deals with them, whether it was in my last job or my previous jobs. And I respect a lot of the guys that I've had to do business with. But that being said, I'm sure that's where that relationship is fostered. There's a level of respect, and Stan has earned that respect. He's part of 3 Stanley Cup winning teams. And think about it. When you look at it from 2010 with Chicago, they win in 10, they win in 13, they win in 15. Just think about this. LA wins in 12 and 14. And so to get to the final in the West, you're talking LA, Chicago, even Anaheim back in the day. Detroit was still in the West. The West was a murderer's row, outside of Boston. And you, Jimmy, Boston had to win a game 7 and 11 in 2011. They had to win a game 7 in Vancouver. Yep. It wasn't like it was an easy series. Yep. Vancouver could have easily won that series. Tim Thomas out goaltended anybody Vancouver had, and Bergeron and Chara and Recchi in particular, the leadership of Boston got them over the hump. But you think about what Chicago had to go through from 10 to 15. Pretty amazing.
It really is. Pierre, I want to mention something quickly before we go to Aaron, too. A great event's going on in Connecticut tomorrow. The Connecticut Hockey Foundation is supporting an amazing initiative that was started last year in memory of Hayden Thorson, where they reach out and check in and make kindness a contact sport. It takes place tomorrow. You can go and find out, as a lot of current NHL and NHL alumni are involved. And our good friend who listens to the show all the time, he's right there in the chat room too. I see him.
Eric Open,
and he does a lot of work for the community there. And you can go to shouldercheck.org to find out more information. It looks like a great event. I'm glad you brought it to my attention, Pierre, and I hope they do a great job and have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, Eric's a fantastic hockey man. He's a lawyer and attorney in Connecticut, and he's a Colgate alum and a guy that really cares about giving back to the game. He does so much for youth hockey in Connecticut and for charitable causes. He's a fantastic humanoid and somebody that I respect a lot.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And that's one thing I love about this game too. Not that it doesn't happen in other sports. I know.
No, it does, but hockey is pretty special.
There's just something about hockey players and charity and giving back. It's understood, and it's stood the test of time, and it keeps getting better. Good job. Let's see. We don't have Aaron yet, but I'll get your take before we bring Aaron on. Just your thoughts on Dean Evason there and what he's going to bring to the Blue Jackets.
I've known Dino a long time. He was a really good player with the Kamloops Blazers. He was a really good player with the Hartford Whalers.
That's when I remember.
He got picked. Especially the Bruins Whalers back in the day. Those were nasty rivalries. He was part of the early teams with San Jose. And I think that was probably the better years. He played almost 850 games, I think, in the NHL. Those were probably the better years in his career. But what he was a really determined, hardworking, industrious player. I spent a lot of time with him when he was coaching. He lives his off seasons in Montreal. So he's always around hockey. He's a hockey guy through and through. But I thought the one thing I'll say about him more than anything else, he's got huge passion and he wears it on his sleeve. Mm-hmm. And some nights that's really positive. And some nights it's not going to be as positive because he's going to get frustrated. Mm-hmm. So that's where having assistants that can read the room and balance it out is really important. I'm sure that's what he and Donnie Waddell are probably talking about. And one of our good friends, I don't know what's gone on there today, but Mark Recchi was an assistant there. Jared Bowl was an assistant there. I don't know if they're still there or not. I've been trading texts with Mark the last little while, but you need, if you're Dino and you're going in there, you need to have guys that can read the room a little bit.
Yeah, and have guys that have been there. I mean, I know a lot of times you have coaches come in and they just want their own staff. But in a situation like that, and that's kind of the interesting thing about this hire to me. And I echo everything you said about Dean. I think he's a great coach. I was a bit surprised that they didn't go, like you just said. I wonder about the generation with the emotion and all that, and how he's going to hold guys accountable. But maybe that's what this young core in Columbus has been missing. Maybe they need a guy to come in and drill it into them and not take any, what. So I like this hire. I'm just trying to figure out, where is Columbus going right now, Pierre? Do they look at themselves in full rebuild? Do they look at themselves somewhere in between? Who are the Columbus Blue Jackets?
Well, that'll be a good question for Aaron, I think, because he'll have talked to Donnie Waddell, obviously. Mm-hmm. He'll have talked a lot to Donnie. So what you do is, when you're breaking it down, just to answer your question, I'll try to make it quick. So they've got some older players.
Yep.
Obviously, Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, who they just got, obviously, in free agency.
Jack Johnson's back now.
Yeah, Jack Johnson's back. So you think about it. I'm just throwing this, and I'm going to ask Aaron this question. Mm-hmm. You got the potential for having Gavin Brindley, University of Michigan, Kent Johnston, University of Michigan, Adam Fantilli, University of Michigan, Zach Werenski, University of Michigan. You could have 5 University of Michigan guys playing in Columbus, Ohio. I'm just curious. I'm just really curious how that plays out.
Clearly, there's an affinity for amongst their scouts and management.
Well, there should be. It's a top-end program. Yep. I just find it interesting.
And the guy I just mentioned, too. I mean, another Michigan guy, Pierre, Jack Johnson.
Yeah, Jack's another one. So there you go. 5. Yeah. 5 UMich guys on there.
And what's the irony of all that? And we'll bring on Aaron as I say this. Let's bring Aaron Portzline in from The Athletic right now, here on the Eye Test of the Sick Podcast Network. Aaron, how you doing, my friend?
Good day, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. And I don't know if you were able to hear Pierre just talking about the Michigan connections there and all the Michigan alum.
Yeah.
How ironic is that, considering where the Columbus Blue Jackets are and what college is right there?
Yeah, well, believe me, it is the topic. It is the topic. What Michigan guy they're going to draft this year? I'll also note that Don Waddell is the native of the Detroit area, so it may not be ending anytime soon. What's great is Zach Werenski just goes right into it. He's got a Michigan suit, literally, with the Block M printed on it. He has suggested they play the Hail to the Victors in the dressing room after every Blue Jackets win. That has not gone over particularly well. What's great, though? Like, Columbus is, obviously, it's a huge Ohio State territory. That's been there forever. It's a much bigger city than people realize now. It's bigger than bigger than Cincinnati and Cleveland combined by 250,000 people. It dwarfs those other 2 cities that people are much more familiar with. So there's room for all of this, certainly. And there are a lot of Blue Jackets fans that are Ohio State fans. But there are also a lot of Blue Jackets fans that are just hockey fans. And so they don't even like to talk about the college stuff, because to them it sort of brings down the pro discussion. But it is the topic. There's no question.
It's good stuff. Go ahead, Pierre.
No, I'm just going to ask Aaron, before we even get into the hockey talk, how you feeling, big boy?
Oh, thank you. Doing very well. Was able to travel. We're starting to make plans again, which is a good sign. We're in Cape Cod right now. I don't know if you can hear the seagulls. Yeah, doing very well. And the donor, Lindy's, doing very well too. So all things pointed in the right direction. Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, Aaron just had a kidney transplant. So just so everybody understands that. That's something that was hereditary, I think, from your family, correct?
Yeah, correct. And for everybody out there who wants to do something really powerful and meaningful for somebody, please consider being a donor, because there's 90,000 people waiting in this country for a kidney, just like I was.
Well said, Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
You said you're getting to go back out on the road and stuff. Will you travel at all next season with the team, or?
That is the plan. Yeah. It was dark last year. Couldn't travel last year. I'm not allowed to be on a plane just yet, but it should line up right with the start of training camp. So hopefully I'll
Perfect.
be back making the Grand Tour again.
Congratulations, and I'm happy for
thanks,
you and your
man.
family. That's great. Hey, let's get into the hockey there. And, the question I just posed to Pierre before you come on was, to you, who are the Columbus Blue Jackets right now? Are they rebuilding? Are they retooling? Are they pushing for a playoff spot? Or where are they? What is their identity? Do they know?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was sort of thinking ahead to what I was going to write for the Sunday notebook. And to me, so they embarked upon a rebuild like 3 years ago, but did they really? If you sign Johnny Gaudreau the next year,
right?
Did they really? If you add Provorov and Severson last summer, where are they at? If you add Sean Monahan, Jack Johnson this year, certainly they've turned a lot of it over to the kids. There's a lot of really young players in this lineup, especially at forward, but there might be two pretty much rookies. Juracek doesn't qualify anymore, but he hasn't played a full year in the NHL. Juracek and Matejchuk could both be here this year on the blue line. So it's still a very, very young team in parts. I think the way I would put it is they're attempting under Don Waddell here almost a rebirth in the middle of a rebuild. You can't go half in on these things, and they've kind of gone half in on them. And now he's trying to, I think, doing a good job of it, but trying to shore up. Okay, if you're signing these guys, if you're signing Gaudreau, the plan is it's not to take 5 years to be competitive. Like that, this has got to get going here. So Monahan comes in, but Monahan's not going to keep Fantilli out of that number one spot when he's ready.
He better not, Aaron.
Right, exactly. He better be ready. Fantilli better be ready soon. Yeah. Jack Johnson is not going to keep Matejchuk out of the lineup if he's ready. So maybe Jack plays 41 games this year, but if Matejchuk's not ready, then he can go to Cleveland, and that's fine too. It's an insurance policy. So I think the expectation, if I can jump ahead to that, listen, they have an outdoor game on March 1st. Yeah. To me, and given where this team's been the last 2 years, if they can get to March 1st with that game against Detroit being meaningful beyond just being an outdoor game. I mean, if you're still looking at the standings, and with these 3-point games, guys, it's hard to be out of it by January and February, and yet they've done that the last 2 seasons. Just play some meaningful games down the stretch, and you want to see the young kids start to bloom. That's so important here. And I think they're going to be a lot more competitive. There's a lot of change. There's going to be a new feeling when they break training camp. So I think it's been a productive summer, but no one's going to believe they're heading in the right direction until they actually take steps in that way.
Aaron, speaking of direction of Patrick Laine right now.
Yeah. Holding pattern. I think, and they won't say that it's a source of much frustration, but I think it surely is. First and foremost, we must say Patrick Laine, the number one goal here is for him to get well. You don't want him out of the program until he's shown what he needs to show to be cleared of that. So that's the first thing. Good question right now, though, is he not cleared by the program because he's not cleared? He's not medically cleared. They don't think he's ready. Or is it because the program is on summer holiday like so much of the rest of the NHL? And so they said a month ago, Waddell did, that it's probably any day now that he's cleared. And it's been about 40 days since then. And he's not cleared as of yesterday morning. They can trade him while he's in the program, and yet they can't because all of the teams that are interested in him want to, and it makes perfect sense. They want to talk to him first. He played 18 games last year. Where is his head? Where is his heart? And honestly, I think part of this too is Don Waddell doesn't know the player or the person at all, and he does not want to trade him to somebody under false pretenses. So he wants everything to be on board, wants those teams to have an opportunity to speak to him. But he says they are still getting phone calls from teams wondering where it stands. So there is still some interest out there.
Well, I'm sure there is. I have one other question. They're going to arbitration, it looks like, anyways, on the 31st of July with Marchenko.
Yeah.
Is that going to happen, or are they going to settle?
Good question. I always judge it by the tone you hear from the people talking about it. And when you start to hear, hey, if he goes to arbitration, at least we get a deal done, you go, okay, we're starting to think like it's going to go to arbitration because they're putting a shine on that. This franchise has never gone to arbitration with the player. Of course, they've had many file. They've gotten close a couple times, but they've never had anybody follow through. So that would be a first. I have been told the Blue Jackets, if it gets to that point, will ask for a 2-year deal. They don't want to go through this again next year. The kid's got a pretty good case, 44 goals his first 2 years, and lots of upside there. So they've talked. He's got 4 years until UFA. They've talked 3-year deals. They've talked 5-year deals. They've talked some others. It's still very much up in the air. But when I start hearing them, come to terms with the okayness of arbitration, I go, okay, maybe this is going to arbitration.
So, Jimmy, just to build off of Aaron's point, and this is for our viewers and listeners. So let's just say he does a 3-year deal. There's a bargaining agreement because there's going to be one within 2 years, maybe 3. So it's a dicey thing for the agents. It's a dicey thing for the teams. If you go to 5, like Aaron was saying, they talked about a 5-year deal. If you're the agent, you might undersell your client. So you're buying because you're buying up. Where it leads to arbitration, and Aaron's points were so spot on. That was really well documented. That's why I think the teams proposed all these different deals, because the agent knows there's going to be a new collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah,
be good for some of these guys. That might not be as good for some.
Plays with Gaudreau and Monahan, and that works as it did at times in Calgary. He could be looking at 30 goals easily.
Yeah,
exactly right.
And how about on the other bay there, Ken Johnson, Aaron? Anything new?
Yeah, so those guys have had a hard time getting much action. They don't have arb rights, and so with them hiring a coach, now they're onto the assistant coaches and Marchenko. They have been backburnered to the extreme.
Okay.
Don Waddell the other day said 100% guarantee they're going to get done. Of course they are. I mean, these always get done. It's not going to be too difficult. Sounds like it's going to be a 1-year deal for Johnson, who had a really good rookie year 2 years ago, 16, 24, 40. Backpedaled quite a bit last year, had some injuries. And I think Sillinger could be longer term. I think he's already played 3 full seasons in the NHL, believe it or not. And he really looked last year much more like a two-way center. And, with that lineage, he's going to be a long-term player. He's going to play in this league a long time.
Well, total transparency here, Aaron. When I was in Hartford, we tried to trade for Mike. Mike was in Detroit, so we tried to trade for father. And father, when you talk about those names, there's a work component there.
Yep, absolutely.
It's hard not to appreciate. I want to ask you about an injury situation, and Fantilli's injury, I think, caught a lot of people by surprise. He's on the team all the time. I don't think people knew how severe that it was.
Yeah.
How is he doing?
I've not spoken to him personally, but Zach Werenski, I talked to him the other day. He skates with him with a bunch of NHL guys just outside Detroit. Said that he looks really good to him. He's already cleared. I don't think there's any issue of him being cleared to camp. In the sense I've gotten from speaking to those close to him is that it's not an injury that should have long-term consequences. That's a scary place to get cut. The kid had Kevlar socks on, everything. He did everything right. Imagine how bad that would have been if he didn't.
Probably would have been his career. Probably could have been his career.
Unbelievable. I think all signs point up there. But we'll see. We'll see if they hold him back or at all in training camp. Obviously, this is a huge piece to them. And them drafting Caden Lindstrom this year, number 4 overall. It's only been 24 years. This franchise has never really had that strength down the middle. The best teams are strong down the middle. You fill in on the wings. Obviously, the top 2 guys are special on each line, but it's always been a real challenge. Boone Jenner's played in the middle for them the last 5 years. God bless Boone. He'll do anything for you and without complaint. But if he's able to move to the wing with Fantilli, Monahan, Sillinger, Corrali down the middle, that's pretty good. And now you've got Lindstrom coming in a couple of years. That allows Boone to move to the wing where I think he's more effective, and they become more effective. It's a very light team on the wings. And so you put Boone over there, that helps settle that at least on one line.
Totally.
I noticed that too, them being light in the wing. I want to kind of rewind to the line A talks there.
Yeah.
Is that what you think Waddell would be targeting, is another wing, like a wing for wing type trade, if they were to make it happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. And listen, I know Don wants to make a hockey trade, and of course he does. Of course he does.
But it's not as easier said
He's
than
going to
done.
have to take something back. He's not that excited about. I'm thinking either money or a player. I think that's pretty obvious.
I'm going to say money.
Oh
yeah, I think so too. And honestly, I'm not sure he wants a big ticket, lower lineup player. They've got that pretty well covered. They've got a couple of guys that they think are probably close. James Malatesta's a player. Gavin Brindley they drafted last year in the second. I mean, if they're going to be more patient with these guys, they should probably wait another year on Brindley, but that's up to him. They've got some guys there pushing. Right now, Malatesta and Brindley would not be in the lineup. They would come to camp certainly with a shot. And there's some other guys you can factor in there as well. So, they'll take back what they have to take back. I do think it's money. And they may even have to part with the draft pick to sweeten the pot, because at 2 years, 8-7 in August, you think it's hard to move in June and July. August is going to be a bear.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy, by the way, on Gavin Brindley, I agree with Aaron 100%. I've watched him a lot when he played University of Michigan, represented the United States at the World Junior. He's an undersized kid, but he's stocky and he can score. When he plays with him, he's got way more bite than you think. There's a little Marchand in him. There's a little Brad Marchand in him. There really is.
Yeah. No, that is exactly right. The Malatesta kid is a handful too. He of course was the I think Memorial Cup MVP.
He was
in the queue, the MVPs. He's really had a breakout year, and he just has that. It reminds me of some of the younger guys I was so lucky to cover it in this franchise, the Kevin Dineen types. Brindley reminds me of that too, where it's like, all he hears is too small, not this, not that. And it just, there's a resolve and a steeliness about those kids where they're just not going to be denied.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Finally, Aaron, how about the goaltending situation? What do you think of that right now? Do you see it change at all early on, or is they're pretty going to ride with what they have?
Well, and one of the refreshing parts with Waddell here is he just comes right out and says things. Where are you at with Elvis? And he says, we can't trade it, and we're not buying it out because that's 6 years. And you go, whoa, okay. So we got to rehabilitate it. That's what we got to do. Listen, Elvis has been through a lot. He has been through a lot. There are some very frustrating aspects to his game and his personality in an NHL dressing room. There's no question about it. I still think there is, with a lot of people, a level of sympathy for what all he has endured at a young age. He was a bit better last year. The year before was abysmal, 876 save percentage. You got to go back a while to see someone that low. He's better last year. And listen, this is not an easy team to 10 goal for either.
Yeah.
And it's not just the defensemen. They've been really bad on defense. They shouldn't be as bad as they've been. That's going to be Dean Evason's focus, I'm sure, in training camp is. But it's also hard to bring 5 21-year-olds into the NHL and expect to be a good defensive team. Those guys get eaten alive. Their forwards have to be better too. So there's a lot that goes into it, but they have to stick with Elvis at least to start. But I think it's a short leash this year. If he's as bad as he's been, they've got a young guy named Danil Tarasov who they think can be a player. And there's another kid in the organization now named Jet Greaves, who they signed as an undrafted player. Everything they've put before him, he has grabbed. He has really excelled at. He was a damn good AHL goaltender in the playoffs and in the regular season last year. And guys like playing for this kid. So he's got an NHL one-way contract beginning next season, not this coming. But it may not take until next year for Jet Greaves to be an NHL regular. I don't rule out them doing something with Elvis if they can't move him. Waivers, stuff we've seen with with unmovable goalie contracts in recent seasons, I could see Elvis being put on waivers and cleared to Cleveland if he can't get it together.
Interesting stuff. Well, listen, we'll let you go and enjoy your vacation, and we're glad to see you out and healthy, and we'll see you around the rink, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, Aaron Portzline join us from the Athletic, and yeah, he went through the ringer. I'm glad to see him able to enjoy some family time in the Cape, and I guess he's going to Martha's Vineyard, he told me as well, so good for him.
That's awesome. I was going to say go have a lobster roll, but anyways, it's all right.
I might have one of those tonight, my friend. I'm going to see an old friend in Portland.
Hey, by the way, I saw there was like a Shamu whale that knocked the boat underwater right by where you live.
Yep.
No, I was thinking about it. I was wondering if you were stirring up the waters there.
It was not me. I had nothing to do with it. But yeah, I saw that. That's about 5 minutes away from where we are. So that was interesting stuff there. Pierre, yeah, I mean, they're going to be an interesting team to watch. I know people hear Columbus all the time. I know, whatever, but there's some real good potential there. There is. There's kind of stringing it together and getting the right blend, as he said, and then they got to figure out the line A situation as well, which might not be something so immediate like people would like. So,
one thing I would say, and I wanted to say it was good. It was time to let Aaron go. I don't think people realize because they just haven't seen Fantilli enough.
Oh yeah,
so I'll give you my hockey DB of Fantilli. I watched him play for Tim Whitehead at Kimball Union Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I watched him play for the Chicago Steel. I watched him play at the University of Michigan in regular season games and NCAA games. Obviously, watched him play in Columbus. Watched him play for Canada. This is a special player. And with hockey people, as they go into the draft, sometimes you get calls from them. They say, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy? Fantilli, my comparable on him, and I don't know what other people have said, he reminds me, honestly, of Mike Modano.
That's high praise.
So I'm a huge Mike fan. I coached against Mike, had to drop game plans to beat Mike's teams that he played on. The 91 final, Mike was, obviously part of the Minnesota North Stars where the Pittsburgh Penguins beat them. And I have so much respect for Mike. And to even mention a guy's name in the same, sentence as Mike's name, that's pretty high, I think. Anyways, it's pretty high praise. And I think Fantilli can be that for them. And that's really, when you look at the Minnesota North Stars / Dallas Stars, when they really started to go, it all started to evolve around Mike Modano. And that's so Columbus has that now that maybe they didn't have before. This guy is a superstar player in the wings. Like he's going to be as long as that injury didn't set him back, he's going to be a superstar player. Really,
I remember you talking about it, and the start he got off, I was like, wow, this might happen. You were saying, I remember to Mitch Melnick that he could compete with Bedard for the Calder, and this was on the assumption he'd be healthy.
Yeah. If you look at the numbers, he was right there with Connor Bedard.
He was rolling.
Got hurt. And obviously both were playing on less than elite teams in the NHL, so that's hard for 18-year-old kids to do. It's really, really hard for them. Fantilli's got way more size, and I think Fantilli's a better overall player in terms of defense, offense, and everything. Bedard's got an ability that I don't think Fantilli has. Bedard's got this amazing ability to beat guys in confined areas where you think you got him, and all of a sudden he's gone by you. Fantilli doesn't do that as well as Connor Bedard. He just doesn't. He doesn't do it as well.
12 goals and 15 assists, by the way, in 49 games played before he got hurt. So there's great potential there for him. All right, Pierre, let's switch over to some of our viewers and listeners here in the chat room. They got some questions lining up. Let's rock and roll. What do we got? Filterless Bear. Is it just me, or is Logan Mailloux grossly underrated? Are people afraid to praise that kid? I'm more excited about him than Hudson, and I like Hudson.
Well, he's not underrated with hockey people.
No.
The problem was the off-ice stuff.
Yep.
And, that is a young man who made a terrible, terrible mistake. Mm-hmm. He's owned up to it. He's paid the price for it. And we'll see where it goes. But I can't see him not playing in the NHL and being a good player. Different player than Lane Hudson. He's got way more defensive bite than Lane, but he cannot run a power play like Lane Hudson. He just doesn't have that.
I think they're both gonna, unless Mayu was to be dealt, we have no idea that he would be. We have no indication he would be, but unless he's dealt, I think they're both going to be part of the future there on the blue line for the Canadians. And I think
they are. They're a big
part. That blue line has got a bright future. So
they have a brilliant future. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy, the Flames released what the new arena looks like. Yes, I did see that, Randy. It looks beautiful. My question is, I got to get out somehow to the Saddle Dome, Randy, and we'll meet up. I've never been to the Saddle Dome. I know Pierre has, and he's probably got some great stories. So I want to be there before that old barn goes down or at least gets closed. But yeah, that new arena looks great, and the city of Calgary deserves it.
They sure do. They absolutely deserve it. Calgary's an amazing city. The population there is hockey mad. They've obviously had more downs than they've had ups, but it's a fantastic city and it's a great hockey city.
Yep. All right. Next question. Kook69. That Will video is currently viral. I wouldn't want that happen to me if I were in that boat. Yeah. I thought the funniest thing too is the kids that were filming it is that so one guy's filming it and then you see the other one taking the wheel and going, let's get the hell out of here. He's trying to turn that boat and go.
Yeah, that was, I tell you what, like I don't usually watch that stuff, but I was like, okay, this is in Portsmouth where Jimmy lives.
Yeah.
So I said, I got to see what happened. So I'm informed.
And so I'm going to Portland tonight for dinner with Monica, and we're meeting up actually with a couple from Calgary, believe it or not. And there was a great white there the other day. Like these things are just trekking north every year.
Are you going to someone's home for dinner, or are you going to a restaurant in Portland?
We are going to a restaurant, a place called Union. It's supposed to be
I know where it is. It's good. Good spot.
Right. I'm psyched.
One thing I would say to anybody that wants to go to Portland, there's a restaurant there called Duck Fat.
I saw that come up on Yelp, Pierre.
I'm just telling you, Duck Fat is super elite. Is it healthy? No. Is it good? Yes. It is amazing. Duck Fat is an amazing restaurant right on the water in Portland. I love Portland. I think Portland's such a great city. It breaks my heart there's not an American Hockey League team there. I know there's an East Coast Hockey League team there, but
it just got a new owner, by the way.
Yeah, it was awesome back in the day to go scouting up there. It was great. Barry Trotz's team winning the Calder Cup there when they were part of Washington's group. Yeah, I remember those good memories.
The Portland Pirates. Yeah, I remember
they were.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, next question. Ryan Burke, can the Habs get Demidov to come over to Montreal this year? I think.
Why? Why would you? Why? Oh, you mean like to Montreal? You're not getting no. The answer is no.
Yeah, and I think I saw a report. It might have been from Arpin Basu yesterday, saying that the team's been conversing with his club over there, but more so just on how they would like to see him developed and what they can do to help. It wasn't about getting him over right now. So that seems like it's not happening.
No, I would say no.
All right, next question. Jimmy and Pierre, how does Lindholm do in Boston? The great question, Randy. I think that question may determine how the Bruins do as well.
Is it going to be the first center or the second center?
Well, they're pegging him in as the first, and I think on a contender he's a 2C.
That's what he is.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think he can fit well in Monty's system. I think he will, and people will point to he had a rough year last year. There's a lot of bouncing around, a lot of stuff going on. Let's see how he settles in, and we'll go from there. But it's a great pickup. Don't get me wrong. I think picking up him and Zadorov makes them better. I just don't know if it makes them as good as everyone thinks it's going to just yet. We'll see.
Well, we were pushing hard for Noah Hannafin.
That, I think, would have been the key. Yeah. I don't know what center they could have got that was out there.
We want him to get Lindholm, too.
Yeah. We haven't got Lindholm, but they, at least they got somebody in the top four for the D. I
absolutely agree. Totally agree.
They need that. Get some relief for McAvoy. All right, next question. Jeffrey B. What do you think of the Oilers' bet on Jeff Skinner? I believe I read he has over 1,000 regular season games played without any playoff experience. That is true. Pretty sure.
There's a sense of familiarity there with Skinner because he's an Ontario Hockey League player that played in Kitchener. So Jeff Jackson would know him amazingly well. I just think that there was internal knowledge there that they probably know the player better than most. He'll have a role where he's not going to have a voice in the room. He's going to have a role where power play specialist, point producer, maybe as a depth player. And it's hard not to produce points when you're playing with guys like McDavid and Draisaitl and maybe even Nugent Hopkins. So the answer is it's probably a good pickup for them, especially on a short-term situation.
Yep, like it. All right, next question. We done? We might be done.
It's the middle of the summer, Jimmy.
I know. People are out going about at the beach and everything. I hope they still listen to us up here. I've had people reach out to me. I'm listening to your podcast from the other day.
Oh, there you go.
There's another one. All right. Kook has another question. Do you think Carey Price gets put on LTIR just before the season starts, or does another team pick him up to be cap compliant? That's interesting. Kind of like Arizona did with Shea Weber, maybe?
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that have done that. That's a fair point. I'd be surprised.
Speaking of Shea Weber and Carey Price, congratulations to them. I saw they were inducted into the British Columbia Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. So good honor for them.
Well, Shea Weber's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He'll be inducted in November.
I know.
Pretty big honor, too.
Having a pretty good year.
The kid from Sycamoose, BC is doing pretty well right now.
Yep. All right. What do we got? Anything more? I think we got a couple more joined the party here. Angelina Jolie. Pierre, thought that the Habs should take Cole Eisman at 5. Now that the draft has unfolded, will you still prefer Eisman over Demidov or someone else?
No, you know what? I think Montreal was a beneficiary of other teams passing on Demidov.
Yeah.
So I thought Demidov was going to go 2 or 3. They did. The fact he slipped to 5 is huge for Montreal. It's like Michkov. When he slipped, Philadelphia took him because a lot of people were afraid.
Yeah.
I didn't think Demidov would slip that much, and so great for Montreal to get him. I think Yzerman slipping as much as he did is a mistake for a lot of teams. I'm not saying it's Mark Stahl from 2005, and I'm not saying it's Anze Kopitar from 2005 when both of those guys slipped, but they went like 10-12 or 10-11, if I remember correctly. This guy went to 20.
Well, this is what I was going to say, Pierre. They almost got both.
He went to 20.
They just missed by one pick on getting both, which would have been a real coup, if you ask me. And
what's going to be interesting for Yzerman this year is Celebrini didn't stay at Boston University. So they were supposed to be the Bobbsey twins at BU. Boston University lost a lot of guys. Their team's going to change.
Yeah.
This is a team that did really well. And Jay Pandolfo, our friend on this show, has done an amazing job there. Just like our other buddy, Greg Brown's done an amazing job at PC. But it's going to be a different experiment for Yzerman at BU this year because not having Celebrini there makes it a little bit different for everybody. You know, and not having Lane Hudson there and not having Luke Tuck there and not having Sam Stevens there, like they lost some guys. And I know they got some really good young players coming. It's hard to win with a whole team of young guys. It's really hard. It's really, really hard.
You wonder, Pierre, now I know offense is his forte and he needs work on the defensive side. Does losing all those players almost force him or the staff to really have to focus more on his 200-foot game? And maybe that becomes a byproduct of it, a positive one, maybe, a silver lining, so to speak, down the road.
I think anybody that plays for Jay Pandolfo has to play 200 feet. That's just how he played. That's how he coaches. I respect him so much because of that. He's got I know he played for the Islanders, but he's a New Jersey Devil.
Yes.
His Stanley Cup wins are with New Jersey. He's a
killer.
Devil. He grew up in the Devils organization. He's a Devil. And so he taught, and that's how he goes about his business, which I respect a lot. And so I think that will help. I really do. I think it'll help him a lot.
Good. All right. What do we got? Any more questions? Mitch Balin, with guys like Riley Kidney and Owen Beck in the system, could you see center moves like Dvorak and Evans moved before the season.
Yeah. Dvorak's contract can't be moved. I talked to Jimmy about this a long time ago. Unless Montreal's going to eat money, they're not moving that contract. Evans, maybe, but I would say not right now. Those two young players you're alluding to, they're good young players, but you got to think Jake Evans now probably has 4 years on those guys, maturity-wise. That's a big jump. If you're going to play that role like Jake has been playing, you can't throw a kid in there.
No.
You got to have a guy that's physically strong, can skate, is fearless, and understands a league. Kids can't play that role. It's a hard role to play. It's a really hard role to play.
No, I actually think he's a bit underrated. I think Jake Evans is a good guy to have for what they're doing there in Montreal.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Marco Larabi. What's up, Marco? Which bottom 5 teams from last year have a chance to take a step this year? Well, I think one we're talking about right now, the Canadians. Right?
Montreal, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to quantify bottom 5 to I'd rather go non-playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you look at the Atlantic. Detroit's got a chance to be better. Buffalo's got a chance to be better. Ottawa's got a chance to be better. Those 3 teams have a legitimate chance to be significantly better. In the West, I'm going to give you a dark horse. Nobody's giving these guys any credit at all. I think Anaheim's got a chance to take a step.
Yep, I do too.
I think Anaheim's got a chance to make a step.
I'm with you, Pierre. I don't think they're making the playoffs. So
No.
But I think they will take a step. They will. And
I think Arizona could take a step too.
That's okay. We don't script this. I was literally going to say, and watch out for Arizona. I think
they have money. So we knew when new ownership came in and they moved, they were spending money.
Yeah, and we should say Utah. We'll take a bit.
Utah. Utah. Yep. Well, they look at their.
By the way, what a fun few months for the hockey fans in Salt Lake City. Did you see what happened yesterday? They were just named the host of the 2034 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. It's going back.
02 Olympics, the 02 Winter Olympics, I can tell you right now, I was there, fortunately for me. Phenomenal. The people there did an amazing job. The infrastructure is so built and ready for it. The snow and the skiing is amazing. The arenas are spectacular. The airport is really good for a less than huge city. The airport's outstanding. It's a really good place. Really good place for the Olympics.
The airport had a lot of people sleeping in it the past few days, though. Unfortunately, that Delta
CrowdStrike thing and the Delta. So I think I've shared this with you before. In 02, after the gold medal game, I was working with Bob McKenzie and Gord Miller. We went to the airport the next morning really early. We had a 4-hour delay because the airport was different then. It's growing over time.
Yep.
Now it's an elite. I flew through there a lot in the course of my career. That's a really good airport. But we sat with Herb Brooks for almost 3.5 hours.
Well, that's a hell of a way to kill a delay.
And it was phenomenal.
That's like
one of those meetings, Jimmy, you never forget.
Yeah.
You never forget.
You're just a sponge on the wall. And
Bob and I still talk about it. It was special. Really special.
All right. What do we got? Any more questions here? Alex Ivanowski, I have been seen in some videos and some comment sections, more and more Red Wings fans growing frustrated with their rebuild. What would you say to those people about the Red Wings' future?
I still think it's really good.
Me too.
Do. Here's where I maybe I take a step back, Jimmy, on this. And let's say we get to December and they're in last place in the Atlantic and they're really struggling and they're one of the bottom 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. Then I say, okay, maybe it's a reset. Maybe they got to reset and look at this whole thing. But I think they've gone out and gotten some really good players. They didn't make the playoffs last year for one reason only. Dylan Larkin got hurt and missed 2 straight weeks. And that killed them.
No, they never recovered.
That killed them.
Yeah.
And, they just have no room for error right now. But I think they've done some very good things. There's amateur scouting staff. They've done some solid things on the pro side. And Stevie Yzerman's a really good hockey man. I don't care what anybody says. You take shots at him all you want. He knows how to win.
Yeah.
He knows how to win, and those guys matter. They're not always going to be letter perfect, but he knows how to win.
Yeah. All right. What do we got? I think we got one more left.
Good.
Kook69, do you think the Laval Rocket can take a step forward and be in the mix for the AHL playoffs? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I was surprised they weren't better this year, but I think they were dealing with a lot of injury situations and other things. And the answer is yes. I do think they can, 100%.
All right. We actually have one more, and then we'll call it a day. What do we got? Marco again. Is the NHL missing an opportunity to generate interest in the game over the summer? NBA and other sports have off-season leagues. I miss hockey.
No, we all do. Marco,
we all do, but they need a break. Think of how late things went this year and have been since COVID. Like they need to breathe, man.
Our sport's way too hard. It's way too hard. It's way too physical. It's way too fast. No, our guys need a break.
Yep.
They
think about the year they got coming.
And just think about it. In February of 2025, you're going to have that Four Nations tournament.
Yep.
In the year after that, NHL players are going back to the Olympics in Italy. So all the star players, they're toast.
Yeah.
We need a break.
Yep. Everyone needs a break. The managers, the coaches, it's crazy how condensed everything was, and it's not really going to get that much more open because of what Pierre just said for the next couple off seasons. So,
no, but I think in the summer it's good. That's why I think the one thing I would think, take it for what it's worth, I think we need to have more hot stove leagues like what we're doing.
Yeah, I
think there's a market for that where you sit down, whether it's once a week or twice a week. I think once a week works. That's why we're doing this.
Exactly.
Hot stove it. Now, maybe next summer when we're doing this and our program continues to evolve, we make it a bigger presentation. Mm-hmm. But I do think summer hot stoving it is important. I do.
For sure. All right. Well, we want to thank our guest, Aaron Portzline of The Athletic. Good to see him out and about and healthy, enjoying his summer. He was great. Thank our production team up there in Montreal with the Sick Podcast Network. And, of course, thank our sponsors, TCS and Betway. And Pierre, good to see you, my friend. And I look forward to next week.
You have a great dinner up in Portland. I will be in Canada for the month of August. I'll be going home and visiting with family. And
sneak up there and maybe meet you at Hurley's.
You've been invited numerous times. I'm wondering if they won't let you across the border.
Well, not yet. I've just been busy doing some odd ends.
I know. It's all good.
Doing a little bartending, as I told you. Told Pierre off air that the bar I'm doing some part-time bartending in the Navy Yard. It reminds me of the Aces in Slapshot.
In Johnstown,
have some good stories soon.
Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
There you go.
Can I say that story on the air, Jimmy, or is that not good?
The one I told you?
No, the one I told you.
Oh, yeah. I think you could tell him that quick.
So we went in. I was coaching in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we went into Johnstown. And Nicky Fatillo was coaching Johnstown. I have so much respect for Nicky. And tough teams. You had tough teams. That was a hard building to play in. Anyways, we won the game, and we were heading, I think, to Wheeling, West Virginia after the game. And I told the guys after the game, I said, we're not getting on the bus yet. Go to the bar across the street, and went to the Aces. And I told the barman, I said, keep it all. They get a 2-beer limit. I'm taking care of it because I knew they were coming on the bus. And the guy grabbed me afterwards, the owner, and he said, we haven't had a team come through here in 5 years. Awesome. He goes, it's so awesome that you're coming in here. I said, you know what? I just want these guys to understand. This is part of the lore of being in Johnstown. It's part of the lore. And the guys, it was really fun. We had a great time. Really.
Did you see the dog statue too?
Oh, yeah. I've been through Johnstown a fair bit.
All right. Good. Well, I'm going to go wrap my hands up in foil and head to the bar. I'll talk to you later. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. We'll talk to you next week.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.